Breathwork is literally the bridge between mind and body, because every time you get a panic attack, amygdala that's responsible for fear is going to tell you you're about to die. Breath is going to help you access that physiology as well, and ideas come through, opportunities start becoming more visible. And I think there's this missing link for the young generation to see breathwork as a tool that you can use for absolutely anything in our modern day and age.
How do you inject limitless living into this generation?
You being able to tap into your potential, you allow yourself to dream big, and so you live a life beyond limits. But we live on autopilot, we look for the cheap dopamine, we just think we're never good enough, we compare to everybody else, and then that's when you get into a cycle of very low self-esteem, very low self-confidence, which then triggers, again, more cheap dopamine to feel a bit better about yourself, which is not helping you. Maybe you reach for the vapes or the drugs.
What is like a hack that you can tell people when it comes to breath work?
The reason why I'm sharing it on this podcast is because you can literally do it now. You can do it anywhere. But the trick here is...
Valentina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm very good. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, my absolute pleasure. And this is the sort of episode that I'm really intrigued with, because your work, anything to do with sort of personal development and goal setting, confidence and that sort of thing, I'm always interested in, because when people think about the generation of today, personal development, goal setting, confidence, because there's so much stimulation, I feel like this sort of topic is so relevant to the people of today. And that's why I was really interested to have you on. Your story is also very interesting because you incorporate breath work very heavily into what you do.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about that. But I would love to start off with, I guess, where your journey began. Maybe, I think, because your journey with this is really rooted in childhood, right?
Absolutely. Definitely in childhood, maybe more around my teenage years rather than childhood, because, well, I don't know. I was 15 when I first learned about meditation. My mom had mentioned it. I was also 15 when I first I read The Secret and learned about law of attraction, and I started learning about energetics and frequencies. So I would say it started quite young, but I also was diagnosed with a panic disorder very young, or maybe around 18, 19. And so my whole journey with mindfulness and breathing and present awareness started when I got diagnosed with panic disorder. I mean, I was on a whole journey of, being sent to different hospitals and being put on antidepressants and a lot of things that didn't work, until I found the thing that did work, which was going to therapy, obviously CBT, but then also learning about mindfulness, learning about the breath, learning about being present, learning of shifting from panic to complete self-acceptance and releasing, surrender, letting go. And that's when I started, learning all of these tools, and they've followed me throughout my journey and also impacted me in the decisions I then made of like my career choices moving forward. So then studying psychology, getting my degree, and then wanting to help others and inspire others that have kind of lost hope in their journey, in their like confidence, their mental health, thinking they can't achieve anything, losing that spark, that not tapping into that potential, and supporting these people to see, yes, it's possible for you too, even when you think you've lost it fully.
That panic disorder, where did it, was there an origin story to that? And also like how bad did it get?
It got really, really bad, to the point that like it became an actual it was an actual disorder. So you could have panic attacks here or there, but you're not going to be diagnosed with a disorder until you have a certain amount and it really impacts your lifestyle and your day to day. So it got to a point where I really couldn't get out of bed without triggering one. Wow. And then with time, if you do not start working on these panic attacks and start solving it, you could also start, obviously you can tend to go into depression because you're so low and so upset that like your life is completely different. There's also a risk of getting a bit obsessive with things. So for example, wearing the same things you wore on the day you didn't get a panic attack. So it really starts stacking. You start stacking all these different, I wouldn't say disorders, but these different forms of these let's say drainers in your life. It started, I definitely had my first few panic attacks when I was 17, 18. Even though my mother did mention that when I was 12 once, I did show a few signs, but around 17, 18 is when it really came through. But I just didn't know, and I wasn't aware of it, right? So I didn't know I didn't even know what a panic attack was. When my heart was racing like this, or I couldn't feel my arms and my legs, I thought I was getting a heart attack. I thought I had problems, like some sort of physical problem. So it took a while for me to understand it. And it's only when I got taken to hospital because I thought I had a heart attack that they told me, look, these are panic attacks. And then it just kept going on from there. And it was really hard to kind of contain them. But yeah, it definitely started around 17, 18. The reasoning behind it is so vast. There's so many things. Like childhood can play a role, but then also I was very stressed. I was living in Slovenia, doing my IB at the time in college in the dorms. And I think it was a very stressful time. And the moment I graduated from high school, it just hit me. Yeah. So many potential reasons in the background.
It's not a unique story though by any means, because the young people of today, I mean, pretty much anyone listening to this podcast can relate in some capacity. Like,
absolutely.
But what helped you in that sort of moment, in that time?
In that time, first of all, well, understanding of what it is. I think psychoeducation is one of the most important things when you are struggling with something, is understanding, why is my body reacting like this? What is happening to my body? And why am I actually safe? Why can't I die from this? Because every time you get a panic attack, you'll think you're dying from it. Your brain is going to trick you into believing, okay, this time it's not a panic attack. This time it's a real heart attack. And it changes forms, which is the craziest thing. It starts with maybe your heart racing, but then the next time it's like this little monster that transforms. If you don't learn to tackle it, it will be your throat starts like swelling, or you feel like it's swelling. So you think, I've just had an allergic reaction to something. This time it's not a panic attack. So it takes these different forms, and it plays with your mind, and you never know, is it a panic attack? Am I really dying of something else? And so you live life really like listening to your symptoms all the time. So I also had chronic anxiety. So I think a lot of people can relate, because maybe they've had a panic attack here or there, or maybe they're just very anxious, because it started from being anxious all the way to getting to panic attacks. And then not knowing, then being trapped in the cycle of fear because I didn't know how to handle it. So psychoeducation was key for me, understanding that my body's in fight or flight, understanding that all these symptoms are because I'm going through what a normal response to panic, right? And that's also what I teach people now when we do ice baths, for example, is that the first response of your body is the one of panic. Your the primitive part of your brain, the amygdala that's responsible for fear, is going to tell you you're about to die. And so it's just about learning a lot about what happens within your body, but then also really working on that conversation between your two ears, that conversation that says you're wrong, you're weird, you're strange, why is this happening to me? Why are all my friends in uni and already in their second year and I'm here struggling? You know, all that kind of stuff, that inner critic that knocks your self-esteem. That was like the second piece. So we've got the physiology piece, the body piece, and then we've got the mind piece, right? So understanding those two, and then finding tools to kind of find my strength again, taking risks again, going after my dreams, building again. That was a whole process. I just feel like I had to learn to live again, because everything triggered a panic attack. Clubs, trains, buses, eating too much, eating too little, being too hot, being too cold. Anything that would alter, let's say, my heartbeat, I was out.
What I find interesting about what you just said is that, ironically, the reason why you sort of came out of it is because you experienced it so extremely. Whereas a lot of people go through their lives not even knowing that they're going through this, because it's less extreme than what you went through. The reason why you sort of try to pick up tools and practices in order to understand why those sort of responses are triggered and how to recover from them is because you felt it so frequently and vividly. Whereas other people, I'd say actually like a wide majority of people, experience maybe 20%, 30%, 40% of what you experience on a day-to-day basis.
100%.
But they don't do anything about it.
Yeah. They just think it's normal, right? It's as if like, it's also these little things, like when we have these little aches and pains, or let's say PMS for women, or headaches, we're like, oh, this is all normal. It's normal to feel this way. No, it's not normal. All of that is not normal, but it's just normalized. And it's a bit sad. And also for me, that was the case, that we have to really touch rock bottom to start picking ourselves back up. And that is the reminder I like to kind of often and insist on sharing, is that like, if something's just not feeling right, it's enough for you to actually like work on it. So I've had to pull the handbrake and be like, okay, we got to reassess my life here. I was studying biology, left uni, left Austria, moved back in with my parents and went full-time into therapy. And that was really hard for a very overachieving person that I was.
Yeah.
I was very overachieving and had these big dreams and big goals, but I felt so lost. And that was really difficult. But sometimes you just have to pull that handbrake before you get to rock bottom, before you're like at your end, you know? So I think this is a very, very interesting thing that you just mentioned, that a lot of people just think they're just going to try to live with it, but you don't have to live with it. Like, work on it now.
Not even live with it, just ignore it.
Ignore it as well, yeah. Absolutely. That's another thing that I think is very interesting. Just living on autopilot. So you're just going to let it, you're just not even bringing it into your awareness. And if it's not in your awareness, how can you work on it? There's no way.
Yeah. So back to that story, you were going through those motions. What would you say in that moment sort of helped you the most?
A lot of things, I would say. There's not one thing. I definitely will bring it back to me going to therapy, but my therapist actually giving me the knowledge and the tools and allowing me to learn about mindfulness and breathwork and breathing.
Yeah.
That must have been the number one thing that switched, because I'd been to other therapists and, they prescribe, well, if hospital psychiatrists had prescribed, but then their psychotherapists were going deep into my past and all of that. But I just needed tangible tools in the moment.
Yeah.
It's important to understand where things come from, but sometimes you can overanalyze things and where is the missing piece? How can I get out of this? That's why I love coaching so much. We do touch on the past, but we always work towards something because that's empowering. That's going to give you your confidence back. Yeah. You have to take action. You have to take risks. And so, but if you're so low, there's no way you're going to take a risk. If you can't even get out of bed, what risk are we going to take? So it was definitely the understanding of the knowledge around mindfulness and breath work, and then leaning into a support system. Support system is huge. You can't do this on your own. And for me, I tried battling it on my own. I tried hiding it. I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't tell my parents I had these feelings until I literally landed in A&E and they came to pick me up at the hospital. And that's when they were aware of it. So a huge weight came off my shoulders. It's important to share. It's important to allow yourself to be vulnerable. So I would say the number one thing, getting help and having a support system and finding the right tools for you. Because like I said, for me, the overanalyzing wasn't doing it. The pills for me, the antidepressants, I know they've helped millions of people, definitely didn't help me. And so I've found the right thing for me and I never gave up. I just changed therapists over and over again until I found the right one and the right person for me.
What do you think about antidepressant pills and just the over prescription of pills?
I think it's a big topic because I know that it's changed lives, it's helped people. So I don't want to be dismissive of it. This is my personal experience and it's just mine, right? But to me personally, it's being prescribed really quickly. You can't sleep, you're struggling, you're anxious at work, take this, 15 minutes with the doctor, with the GP, and they'll prescribe something. And it's like it pushes us away from introspection, self-awareness, and understanding that we have the tools inside of ourselves. And I think it also pushes you towards a whole new level of being dependent on something external. Because it doesn't align with me, it didn't work. And I was already afraid to be addicted to certain things. So when it comes to tranquilizers, you get an immediate reaction, right? So feel like a panic attack's coming. Let me take a few drops. They said as soon as you have the first signs, take a few drops, and that's going to calm you down. And then they gave me things that happen, that work behind the scenes that you might not feel immediately, that are not as highly addictive, right? But they're still doing something, right? The serotonin levels are changing and stuff like that. So with the tranquilizers, I started getting addicted to it because if I would get out of the house and forgot my tranquilizers, I'd get a panic attack just because I forgot them. So that's when I realized I'm actually falling into a whole new problem here. And I'm a big believer of that true empowerment that comes from within. Ideally, I'd like to be stripped naked and not have to have anything to be able to regulate and to be able to find my strength and find my power. If I need phone, even phone. The phone was a huge distraction. I feel a panic attack. Let me just play some, I don't know what I was doing, maybe Candy Crush or scrolling, doing something. I was just trying to, let's find some solution at the time, right?
I mean, that's the most like prevalent modern day drug, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because it releases very slow dopamine.
Absolutely. And cheap dopamine.
Cheap dopamine.
Cheap dopamine. And so I was looking for that. That didn't work. And then when they gave me the tranquilizer, it's like everything's outside of you though. And the answer is within. And it just, even though I was very young, I felt like something was off. I didn't want to take any of that stuff. But when you go to loads of doctors, you're touching rock bottom, and every single psychiatrist, psychotherapist says, take this, take this, take this, take this, alongside therapy. And my parents obviously were listening to that and were like, these are experts. Like, please, like, this is the right help you need. Yeah. Inside, though, I felt like it was off. So I'm really glad I ditched the tranquilizers. I did go on a whole journey of like Prozac at the time, a good 2 years of antidepressants, working slowly behind the scenes. And it was really hard to wean off them or get off them. But I would say that wasn't the missing piece because I was taking them already and I was still struggling. It was not the right thing for me. And I think we shouldn't be straight away going for those unless we really, really have to. And so it's prescribed a bit too quickly, a bit too easily, a bit like too quickly to young generations that first give them the tools. If the tools don't work, we can look at the rest. But like I'm sure with simple tools, we can shift everything. And it also removes this idea that there is a magic pill that will sort your mind out. Like, no, that's what I love about the mind is that we have to find ways of making it work. It's not like, oh, here's my broken knee, please fix it, do some physio, and then we're out. Like there is no magic protocol and no magic pill. Everyone's different. And so you have to find your own way. But that builds so much strength. It's not like, hey, I give you my knee, please fix it. I give you my mind, please fix it. Yeah. That's not going to work. It's your mind. You need to have the sense of agency and control and power over your own mind. And I think that is like really, really important nowadays. Yeah.
But tell me when that moment was, because you went through years of not feeling in control of your mind. And it was just like running by itself and it was doing its own thing. And you just said, we have to take responsibility over our own minds and autonomy over our own minds. Yeah. But that's the opposite of what you would go. So at what point was that switch of this is my mind, I can have control over it?
Yeah, I think that's such an amazing question. I definitely was completely living the opposite. So that switch happened when it actually already happened when I got very ill. Because that's when I realized, wait, but if my mind can make me so sick. So once I realized this is your mind, these are panic attacks. You actually don't have any problems internally, right? Because at first I was convinced. And your mind's going to convince you you're about to die. Once I got that, I was like, wait a minute. How did I go from being such an overachieving kid, had done a lot already at a young age and achieved a lot. And I thought with big dreams and big visions. And now my mind is making me sick or it's mind-body connection. Let's say I had physiological symptoms connected to the mind.
Yeah.
So if my mind can make me this sick, then my mind can make me absolutely powerful, right? If it's just looking at the other opposite side of the spectrum. And so that diagnosis made me understand the first aspect. But then you're still living, like your mind's still controlling everything.
Yeah.
And you're living almost by cause of it, right? By effect of it, sorry, not by cause. You're living by effect of your mind. And so what I learned later on is only when I started breathing correctly and being aware and leaning into self-acceptance that I understood, oh wait, I can turn it the other way around. I'm in control. When I started regulating my breathing, when I started sitting in silence and I could feel a panic attack come up and I could surrender to it without fully getting a panic response, just letting my heart beat like all the way to my chest, like it's popping out of my throat, literally, but still sit there with it and allow it. That's when I realized, wait, I'm in control. I'm in complete control. And if I'm in control of this, then I'm also in control of my future, my career, my choices, my dreams, my goals. I have it inside of me. So I had to go through that. It's funny, but the opposite led me to the opposite. But I believe in that. I believe in the law of polarity massively. And just knowing that like it's not opposite sides, it's just two extremes on the same and on two ends of the same spectrum, on the same line I can see, on the same continuum. So I was thrown on this side, but that showed me that there must be an opposite, right? Because if you experience cold, you can experience hot. If you experience the night, you know you can experience day.
Yeah.
So I had to be thrown off completely to the other end of the spectrum to then realize there must be something else on the other side with the same force and the same intensity on the other end. So that was like kind of my breakthrough moment, that realization that it's me. I got this. I'm not a victim of this. Let's turn it around. This can become my superpower. And in fact, now it's like literally what I do every single day. It's like fueling my purpose. And so definitely like has been a huge breakthrough moment. And it definitely has, I didn't turn it into my superpower, but it definitely made it something that still follows me today in the most positive way rather than a negative way.
That first sort of breakthrough moment was like breathing and controlling your breathing, I guess.
100%.
Right?
It was breathing. It was more like at the time, because it wasn't proper breathwork, it was mindfulness. It was just being aware of my breath, just entering and leaving my body. Just like literally the process of breath and the process of the breath and just the whole diaphragmatic breathing, learning to breathe deeply rather than chest breathing and the kind of breathing that leads to panic, right? It was just about learning how I can change my physiology. And by that, it affects my mind and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to go on to breathing because I think that's super interesting. But before we do that, I really want to talk about limitless living because that's something that you spend so much time talking about. And I'm really interested in the fact that you had all those moments personally, and your journey really starts out as sort of navigating your own sort of mental health.
Yeah.
Where was that link between, I guess, managing your own mental health to personal development and confidence and achieving your goals and that sort of thing? Because they seem closely related, but they are different topics, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, definitely, mental health, I was struggling with my mental health. I was going to therapy. We were also analyzing, but I also got tools. But with time, what I realized is I really want to help people like achieve. I want people to feel that strength, that power within them. That's what lights me up. It's like you felt like you're broken. You're not broken. Actually, let's do the complete opposite of what you thought you're not, you thought you were, and do everything you thought you're not capable of. That's just, it really fuels me. I'm passionate about it. And I'm like really, really fascinated with human potential and how it looks like and how we can stretch that further. So it's just a passion of mine. With time, the more I started achieving things, going from completely broken to achieving things, that's when I realized this is really what I want to do. And then that's where I started. At the time I got into modeling, and then I went back to uni, not biology, but psychology, and then started working my way up all the way to getting my coaching diplomas, my breathwork diplomas, meditation diplomas. Worked with peak performance coaching alongside a professor with athletes as well. And that's when I started blending all these different categories and learning and creating my own little toolbox to then start my own business. So it was a gradual way, but also always fueled by this and this feeling of like, it's so amazing and fascinating to access that potential we all have. Just looks different for everybody.
So that potential links very heavily to limitless living. So
that's it.
What is limitless living?
So limitless living is, I like to call myself the modern guide to limitless living because I've just found this concept of limitless living so powerful. It just encompasses everything. It's about living a limitless life. And what does living a limitless life means? It means that like there is no ceiling, no cap, right? There is no ceiling. You're not caged in. You're not boxed in. I felt caged in a lot in the past. I felt like I was a contradiction. I felt sick. I felt afraid. I was in, abusive relationship and grief and all these things that happened. Like I just felt so small. And so for me, limitless living is you being able to tap into your potential and it never stops. You always you dream big. You allow yourself to dream big. And so you live a life beyond limits, but that also means to live a limitless life. It also means understanding your body, your nervous system, your mind, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your physical body. How can we fuel ourselves with the right health choices, the right habits, right? That's all part of limitless living. I was looking for a word that encompasses my whole 360 approach to going to really like reaching the stars, to going after your boldest, bravest dreams and unapologetically being yourself along the way. That for me is like limitless living and what I'm really passionate about.
The whole reason why I started this podcast is because I felt like there was a real gap where like the young people didn't have really like a platform to talk and you know, on the other side, young people couldn't relate to the people that, you know, made their millions during the early stages of the internet, for instance.
Yeah.
That's why I started this, to create those sort of like relatable stories. I genuinely believe though that young people at the moment have so many hindrances when it comes to getting on that limitless living side. Like they've got social media they've literally grown up with. We've grown up with social media, which like no one really knows the true effects psychologically speaking.
Yeah.
You're talking about, you know, widespread mental health. You're talking about even the financial system is far more broken than it used to be. And like inequality is very high. There's just so many things across the spectrum that young people have to sort of deal with and navigate. Like I had someone on the podcast very recently. There's a big loneliness epidemic at the moment.
Absolutely.
There's just so many things across the world that young people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis that are quite unique to our generation. So when it comes to that, like how do you inject limitless living into this generation?
Wow. Also great question. I think a lot of it is awareness. It's being seen. It's platforms like yours that, you know, spread the word on like these the simple hacks. And going back to simplicity, I think a lot of things that our young generation, we tend to overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
We think that the basic tools are not going to work. So we go with that most modern technology, you know, pharmacology, medications. We listen to the experts and the doctors, and we just like, I have a feeling sometimes we're all like these little sheep, you know, we don't think critically. We don't think outside the box. And if you're going to just follow what you're being fed, then it's going to be very tricky. And so if you're just following that, how are you going to take your own health and into your own hands, for example? So just the example of like giving a pill rather than introspection, meditation, and breath work. That is something that I think a lot of the young generation just looks for the quick fixes, right? Yeah. Which we all do. Again, our brain's job is to keep us safe and to save energy. So we're going to look for a quick fix. Like we are going to be drawn towards our phones and scrolling. We all do that. Like no one's safe from that unless you don't have social media, don't have a phone. You put really big boundaries in place, right? Because it's this cheap dopamine. And so the younger generation often tends to overcomplicate things and completely dismiss the tools that help you and that are very powerful, especially when they're compounded and they're stacked. So even just breathing, shaking. We know that shaking is a form of trauma release. Yeah. It's a somatic exercise. It's extremely powerful. Yet, and animals do it all the time. If you look, dogs shake it off when they're stressed. When you see your dog like shaking it off, you can see it like if you observe animal documentaries, they go into a freeze response and they shake everything out and then they run off. If they've escaped, let's say a lion attack or whatever, you can see it, they do it. And so it's so powerful, yet we don't, so powerful and so simple that we don't do it. Like going back into your body and learning about your body and your physiology, taking a few deep breaths and responding rather than reacting is so powerful. Yet we live on autopilot. We look for the cheap dopamine. We just think we're never good enough. We compare to everybody else. And then that's when you get into a cycle of very low self-esteem, very low self-confidence. You're going to which then triggers, again, more cheap dopamine to feel a bit better about yourself, which is not helping you. Maybe you reach for the vapes or the drugs or the alcohol, which then again lowers it even more. And so going back to basics, understanding that the basics are important. And also, I'll keep on repeating this. It's the fact that like, I think younger generations do still live a lot. They live their life on effect rather than at cause. And that's what I was saying earlier. Living at cause means you have a sense of ownership over your life, over your body, over your choices. You're the only one who's going to wake up in the morning and has to live your life, right? When you wake up in the morning, you have to live your life based on the choices you made. If you make choices based on everyone else around you, comparing your life with everyone else around you, the grass is always greener on the other side. It's going to be very hard for you to feel confident and create a life of your dreams. If you live life at cause and you know that my mind is strong, my mind is powerful, my mind can create my reality, which again is dismissed a lot. If you understand that, I think that's when a lot of things can change.
Yeah, I've really changed my perspective on this because before I was along the lines of, blaming things, blaming others and things like that. Once you really make that switch of, taking 100% responsibility over absolutely everything in your life, that's when things started really like slowing down for me, and I sort of separated, things that aren't in my control versus things that are in my control.
Yeah.
But I do get sort of responses of, yeah, but what if, this whole room like caves in, for instance. Like it's not your fault.
Right.
And the way that I always think about it now is, it's not my fault, but it's my responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like things can happen. Yeah. It's just it's now my decision on how to react to that
That's
to that thing.
Exactly.
So
it.
for instance, like good example, my car was broken into like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It's not my fault that it was broken into. However, I could have parked it in a better place. I could have put it like crime as an example, very, very sort of easy to understand, is like, obviously it's not my fault. In an ideal world, crime shouldn't exist. It does exist. Therefore, I should have a level of responsibility over, what I'm doing,
Yeah.
That's the way I like to look at it.
I love that. Yeah, I really love that. And you see something that felt really unfair, because it is unfair. And it's important. One thing that shouldn't be forgotten, this is not, I don't want to like promote toxic positivity here. Oh no, everything's good, all is good. Like, no, like be sad about it, cry about it, get angry, allow the emotions to arise. We are not neglecting our emotional world. We are feeling the anger, we are feeling the disappointment, we are feeling the victim moment where it's like, this is not fair. Why is this happening to me? I can't believe this, We allow that to come through, and then we respond rather than react. But if you let that become your reality, if that emotion, an emotion has a lifespan of around 90 seconds. The rest is all the narrative that you tell yourself, the narrative and the meaning that you attach to that emotion. So if you are then going to go another 2 weeks being like, can't believe this happened to me, now I got to spend all that money on, like, that's then where you allowed the issue to take over your life. And that's where that victimhood it's not helping you at all. Yeah. And that's where literally you've given, basically handed your day-to-day, your lifestyle, your choices, your happiness to that problem. That's where I think it's like important to process it, allow that negativity to come through and out, right? And emotions are energy in motion. They just have to come through and out. Once you're released, it's like, how can I make this something positive for me? Or how can I respond in a way that's aligned with me and that's going to make me stronger, that's going to make me better? How can I shake it off like the animals do? Leave it behind me, move up and onwards.
What would you say is the single biggest sort of hindrance or barrier for young people when it comes to living a limitless life, and how would you say they should navigate that?
I'll say the biggest is a bit tricky because there's so many, and I think it's really hitting us and hitting the young generation from all sides. So it's very hard. But I think that autopilot life is definitely a bit of an issue because we just follow, right? Like I said, like all these sheep just follow. Think outside the box, create a life that's based on who you are. Yeah. And I think that is the most important part here is like when you understand you're living life on autopilot, time is flying by, you don't have a sense of agency over your own choices, the things that you do, the things that you want. Yeah. Then again, you've given your power away and you're just following the masses. And that's when I think gotta wake ourselves up and be like, okay, how do I want my life to look like? What do I want for myself? What are my values? What's important to me? How can I create a life that's aligned to that? And how can I learn to go through discomfort and understand that discomfort is part of it? Because that's another thing. Young generation, we're not that used to discomfort anymore because we like cheap dopamine. We're not going to work hard for our dopamine. And the more we are used to that, the harder it feels to do work and to go for that run and to go into that ice bath or to sit down in meditation and breathe because we're not used to that discomfort. So getting used to getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable to go after your dreams is definitely key as well.
On a more like practical basis, what would you say, like how can people start doing this? So say if they're looking around their lives and they are maybe like blaming others or they're like, oh, the social media is like ruining this and like all this sort of thing. Like how can people actually step back and like practically sort of take more control?
Yeah, I think it starts with like the awareness of what are the things in your life that you're not happy with and where you've given your power away. Where are you in control? Where are you not in control? Oh, I'm not in control of my relationship. I'm with this person. They're not making me happy. But, cognitive dissonance, I'll just stay. We've been with this person for so long. Yeah. Or I spend a lot of time with this colleague, but he's draining me every single day. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, start to look, there's wheels of life. We do a lot in coaching, very simple, but at least it shows different areas of your life, right? Relationships, career, fun, all these different areas of your life, health. You look at them and look at like, where are we scoring? Are we doing well? Or are we not doing well? And then take it, category by category. Where can you start cutting off the drainers and adding more gainers in your life that are going to fill up your cup so that you can give out more? So on a practical level, it's really just like let's strip it all back. Let's have a look at your life. Where are the areas of your life where you truly feel things are not aligned with you? And that's where we start working. How can we bring more alignment? And well, I will always bring in breathwork into it, because I do think that when we talked about, the discomfort part, that's where breathwork comes in, to deal with the discomfort. So I think I threw a few tools here that don't make much sense, but it's very all-encompassing.
Before we talk about breathwork, I'm really interested in the word confidence, because I see so many coaches on Instagram, different social media platforms, that confidence is their thing that they teach, and this is how to build your confidence. This is the quick fix on how to build your confidence. I see it sort of on a day-to-day basis, but what does confidence mean to you?
Confidence to me means being you, unapologetically you.
Yeah,
that's all it means to me. If you're able to be yourself unapologetically, which this means going after what you want, showing who you are, going after dreaming big because it's what you truly desire, not because you're afraid to say it to someone that will be like, "How you think you're going to achieve that? No way." That to me is confidence. If you can be yourself in a world where everyone's trying to tell you how you have to be and who you need to be, you've reached confidence at all levels. Second thing, what is confidence to me, is being able to, again, getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable. It's being able to overcome challenges and trusting that I got this. Might be difficult, might be hard. I might sweat my way through it, okay? I might be, it's going to feel scary, but I survive it. I know I'll come on the other side stronger. That is confidence. Confidence is being able to go through the discomfort to access the bliss on the other side. There's a lot around confidence now. Quick fix. I don't believe in it. And I never will. And I think everyone telling you otherwise, for me, it's bullshit, because I believe that you need that process. You need to go out there, test, trial. That's how you build confidence. You need to put yourself out there. It's not going to happen staying at home and just breathing. Breathing is a complement to that, but you can't just stay at home and just wish your way through things.
Okay, so how do you build long-term confidence?
You take action. You take action even when it's scary. And sometimes a lot of people are completely stuck. They're not even going to take action. And we'll take that 1% action that then leads to the second and then the third. And I tell you, a few months down the line, you look back and you're like, whoa, I've done all of this. It's the compounding effect. Confidence doesn't exist without action. It is definitely a mindset work, 100%. It's perspective shifts, but it's also taking action and understanding challenges, understanding that challenges are part of it, and understanding that if you feel insecure, it doesn't mean you're not confident. You're insecure because you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. It means you're building your confidence. It's normal to feel insecure. I hope I feel insecure on the daily, because that means I'm literally pushing myself out of my comfort zone to grow, to become the version I want to become. That insecurities are normal. It doesn't mean you're not confident. People are just like, oh, why am I feeling so afraid? And then they retract. No, fear is your sign to go. It's okay. It's safe. You can go. Push a little bit. Feel, make your way towards it. I'm not saying like complete throwing yourself, slowly making your way towards it, but don't be afraid to take risks. Confidence is being you, truly you at your core.
Yeah. Valentina, I want to move on to breathwork. So I guess like first question is why was breathwork so important to you? Because from like reading your profile and sort of listening to your coaching, a lot of it is focused on self-development and confidence, but I'm really interested in sort of how breathwork actually fits into that, because I see people focusing on either one or the other.
Right.
So why is it so important for you to incorporate that?
Literally blending it is key for me. Breathwork is literally the bridge between mind and body, right? So if I breathe in a specific way, I can feel a specific way. If I feel a specific way, I can also act in a specific way, right? And it's this thing about understanding that your thoughts influence how you feel influence how you act, and then how you act influences your reality. But because the breath is a bridge between mind and body, I understood that we cannot just go after what we want just through the mind. It doesn't work. We need to bring the body into play. Because just imagine you're now stepping out of your comfort zone. You're going for this interview that you really, really, I don't know, this job interview. You push yourself out of your comfort zone by saying, I'm going to apply for this job. You got to that point, and now you've got this big interview. And you're so nervous. But mentally, you've done the work. You feel confident. But what if your body comes in and just ruins it for you? Palpitations, breathing in a specific way. Then you start going into this fight or flight. You're not thinking properly anymore. You're not rational anymore.
Yeah.
And you're scrambling for words. You're sweating, right? That is where breathwork comes into play, because the breath is going to help you access that physiology as well. So you can tell your body and your mind, I am safe. We are safe. We can digest. We can think critically. We are relaxed here, and ideas come through. Opportunities start becoming more visible. So to me, honestly, there is no way we can do one without the other anymore. Like, that blend is essential. I'm actually surprised that, we are still working a lot with like compartments. Yeah. I focus on the knee, you focus on this, I focus on that. I think the holistic approach is key. I know it's not easy because it requires to bring a lot of moving parts together, probably having a team of experts helping you on different things. But I'm trying to really build my knowledge in a way that I can bring all these facets together for an all-encompassing approach.
What I find really interesting is that humans have evolved over like tens of thousands of years. And we live in a slither of time where we're growing up and our brain's sort of chemistry and like circuitry is being molded in a different way to sort of, but we can't evolve fast enough to sort of like circumvent that.
Yeah.
And so what I like about breathwork is it does take it back to more sort of human foundational levels. And it also, of course, it shows a level of control over your mind and body, because I think it all does relate to breathwork. And it's on a personal basis, I use it all the time when I'm feeling stressed. That's one of the first things I notice about myself, is that my breath is elevated.
Yes.
And I make a note of that. I focus on slowing down my breathing, deeper breaths, and
beautiful.
The heart rate falls, the mind calms.
Yeah.
It just shows how we don't need to complicate things with quick hacks or these things that you see like a 3-step it's far more simple than that. Like, take a step back, find out how humans have survived for like tens of thousands of years with literally just their bodies.
Absolutely. And obviously there's the evolution of technology, so we have to adapt to all these different things, but actually if we bring it back, we will be able to navigate also this modern environment in a better way. Because if we are regulated, this information overload, the decision overload as well, having to make so many decisions on a day-to-day, this sensorial overload that we get from our phones, from like the messages, the emails, the ticking, the beeping, the watches, the things to track everything. Such a sensorial overload.
Yeah. From
all of these things that are let's say linked to our modern day, if we can just strip it back and be regulated, we will also be able to face these things in a better way. So it's about, adapting to the modern day and age by still understanding that the primal way of doing things is very powerful and shouldn't be like underestimated.
I use it a lot, breathwork, for navigating stress, as I said. But what I'm really interested in from what you just said is, I guess, how does breathwork link to high performance? Because for me, I haven't made that connection of like, for me, it's if I'm at a lower stress levels, I can think more creatively and I can maybe do more than if I was stressed, But for you, where does that link take place from breathwork to high performance?
It's definitely about learning that if I can regulate my breath, I can manipulate energy within my body. If you don't believe in energy, then, cerebrospinal fluid and stuff can move in certain ways based on how you breathe, different breath holds and different techniques that are used. And so if I can change my physiology, I'm able to get into a flow state more quickly. So getting into flow state means, like you said, being more creative, which means like maybe in the past you never thought of writing a book, and now you can be so focused, so disciplined that it just flows through you and
Yeah.
you can write a book and here we go, peak performance, or an athlete getting into flow state, very nervous before shooting a goal. And then here they can regulate themselves, visualize, use the power of visualization, use the power of their breath to enter a flow state and almost let it happen on its own without all of the worries and the stress taking them out of that flow state. So a lot of it is linked to breathwork with flow state, and then breathwork for focus and creativity. So people like in our industry, like for me personally, I need to come up with ideas. I have projects. I have to find ways of helping people on a larger scale. How can I do that if I'm constantly in fight or flight? And I've had that before, where I've got really close to burning out, maybe even burnt out, and I even just responding to an email felt completely draining, and I didn't even know how to do that, right? And so how am I supposed to come up with good ideas, be creative, see potential resources, be resourceful, come up with ways to expand my business if I'm constantly in fight or flight and afraid, or in this fight or flight response that doesn't allow me to think outside the box and be creative. So there's so many ways we can look at it. But definitely focus, flow state, and then creativity. Also, another one to add is taking risks. As a peak performer, you have to take risks. You need to be bold. You need to make big moves, and that's going to feel scary. And so you need your breath to calm you down there and regulate yourself before you take that big move, and for you to sign those big deals and make big moves happen as well.
So where does Arena come into all of this?
Oh, Arena is like the new breathwork branch of my business. I've been teaching breathwork for years, and I've been working with clients a lot behind the scenes, which I've really enjoyed. So it's been something that's part of my business for years. But now I really want to bring it to the masses, and I want to do it in a way that just realizing that there's a little bit of a gap in the market. I see breathwork either extremely spiritual, which is beautiful, but also a bit abstract, or a little bit too clinical. Like, this is what you have to do, breathe in. And I think there's this huge space for it to be more approachable, for the young generation to see that you don't have to be enlightened and spiritual to do breath work, and that you can use it. You can be like, again, apply it to your modern day and age.
Yeah.
Before a date, before like your interview, on your way, on your commute to work, before a big bold move, before a conversation with your parents, like. Really, there's so many things that you can do with breathwork, and I think there's this missing link. And I'd love to be with Arena. What I'd like to do is to really support people and the bigger masses to see breathwork as a tool that like you can use for absolutely anything in our modern day and age, and that you don't have to be someone specific to step into the arena, take ownership over your own life, and breathe.
Yeah, I want to wrap up the podcast soon, Valentina. But I guess like last thing I want to ask you is. What is like a hack that you can maybe tell people when it comes to breath work? Because we've talked about it in very heavy detail, but I guess if you were to give like a step by step, or when to use it, or how to use it, how would we go about that?
A quick one that I absolutely adore that you've probably heard all the time, but listen to me, this one's important. It's the extended exhale. It's very simple, but the reason why I'm sharing it on this podcast is because you can literally do it now. You can do it anywhere, and it's not that visible. Where the other ones where you have to hold your breath and stuff or count, it's not as easy. It's not as easy. But the trick here is that some people forget how to do it correctly. So I'll explain it real quick to do it really, really correctly. So when you inhale, you want to be inhaling through your nose. Very important that you don't inhale through your mouth. Not like this, but inhale through your nose, right? When you inhale through your nose, I want you to breathe into your belly. So the belly needs to pop out, not pop in, because a lot of people breathe in like this and they're chest breathers. So use a diaphragm. Diaphragmatic breathing allows you to really breathe deeply. If you think about a newborn and you watch them breathe, they breathe, you see their belly rise and fall, right? So if you do this exercise like this, it's wrong. And that's why a lot of people do not get it right. So as simple as it is, if you do it correctly, you'll feel like you're decompressing as you're doing it. So deep inhale through the nose, into your belly, then you'll feel your rib cage expanding, then your chest. It doesn't mean your chest doesn't move. It's a 3-part breath in. And then when you exhale, you purse your lips as if you're blowing into a straw. That's what people do wrong. They go in deep and then they just let go. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Our exhale needs to be longer than the inhale. So let's say you're inhaling for a count to 4, exhale for at least 8 or 12. And you do that by controlling the breath. If you don't purse your lips, you don't have that control. So it's in and then out.
It's very long, yeah.
That could go on for hours, right? So it's because you have that control.
Yeah.
And through the nose, you cannot control it out. It's out in a second. And just like this, feels nice. It's a sigh, but it's not the extended exhale.
Yeah.
When you extend your exhale, your heart rate decreases, right? It lowers. And you're basically telling your body, we're calming down. It's safe. Do a few of these in the bathroom before a meeting, on the tube, in the bus. If you feel stressed, you're waiting in the queue and you're like, I'm going to be late. Few of these and you'll feel your body on the exhale when you're really like letting out that air. You feel your body decompress, feel your shoulders relax, feel your body relaxing, and you'll realize, I think a bit more clearly now, a bit more calmer. So it's a quick one, extended exhale, easy, fast, but a lot of people do it incorrectly and then they don't feel the benefits. So that's a quick one to use anytime and you'll feel benefits from it. Literally, it's science.
That's a good one. Wow.
Yeah.
You really went into a lot of detail when it comes to like the exhale. And you're right. Like the way that I've always done it is I just like let it all go through my mouth and I don't really prolong it as much as I should.
Yeah.
That's
Try
a really
to
good point.
prolong it because the prolonging is where the key is. It's that key.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very, very powerful. It's very powerful.
I'll definitely do that then.
Extended exhale, guys. Try it out.
Amazing. Valentina, I'm going to wrap up the podcast here. So it's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. I learned a lot.
I'm so glad. I'm pleased.
I'm really glad to have you on. How can people stay in touch with you and what you're doing moving forward?
Right. So Valentina_Marzola on Instagram. In my bio, there's going to be info about my new breathwork brand and business, Arena_official. And then there you'll find everything else, my website and all the information about when I teach, what I teach, our first Arena pop-up and everything coming up. So yeah, that's where you can stay tuned.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation.
It was so good. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll chat very soon.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur. The ambition of the podcast is to share relatable stories from young entrepreneurs doing some incredible things to inspire the next generation, including you listening wherever you are. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years and the ambition has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the scale of where we want to go. We want to bring on bigger guests for you guys to show more and more relatable stories from young entrepreneurs across the world. The majority of you guys watching or listening haven't subscribed to the podcast yet. All you have to do is click that subscribe button wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and that will allow us to bring on bigger guests and ask the questions that you really want to hear. And it really is that simple.